I am the innocent Cinderella in a campus story. I was admitted to an elite school with high scores. Cinderella usually has qualities such as stubbornness, aloofness, and integrity that are different from those of the noble children. But I only have poverty. I wish all the babies who come across this video can get what they want and encounter what they expect. I have clearly known that I am very poor since I was born. I am an orphan with not enough to eat and wear, and I go to school with a lot of debts. No one knows why I can still persist in going to school. Of course, this also proves from the side that I am a genius in study. Soon things took a turn for the better. I encountered the elite school's admission with excellent students. The tuition for 3 years was waived, and there were also several scholarships. I looked at the admission notice from left to right, up and down, and was extremely satisfied. Damn it, fortunately, I study well. The high schools in the city had approached me. They sincerely told me that if I entered the #1 high school in the city, they would ensure that I didn't need to worry about the tuition for these 3 years. More importantly, I could have a good environment. The leader of the #1 high school in the city said regretfully that I was a good seedling and couldn't be buried.
He hinted at something.
I knew this elite school had a bad reputation. Every year, there were special admission students, and without exception, they finally disappeared into the crowd. If I entered, perhaps the same fate would await me. I patted my chest and said, "Don't worry, I'm different from others. I'm aiming for the high scholarship and the school's garbage station. I just want the money. An innocent white flower can't survive here. I advise you to take care of yourself." The red-haired girl sitting in front of me turned her head and looked at me coldly. I shyly pointed my fingers and said, "Do you still want that?" The red-haired girl followed my gaze and saw the drink bottle in her hand. When the world kisses me with pain, I stuck out my tongue and I got another drink bottle. I carried a full big bag and walked out satisfied. That new special admission student is doing what? Collecting bottles. I saw that he has been collecting others' bottles. Oh my god, so abnormal. Those young masters and misses who don't understand the hardships of the world walked arrogantly. Do they know what's inside? It's 8 yuan and 88 cents. Exactly 8 yuan and 88 cents. Most of the time, I would walk near the school's garbage station. There were many good things there. The garbage station of the elite school gave an illusion of a luxury recycling station. I dug and dug inside, and when I looked up, I met the eyes of a slim and fair boy. He was dressed cleanly and simply, and when he saw me, he frowned slightly. I felt that my bag was seen clearly, and I was very uneasy. Even in such a niche area, there was competition. I covered my bag cautiously. "Don't randomly rummage in this garbage station," the boy said lightly. "It seems not very decent to write about a garbage station. I'm still a decent person after all." I simply ignored him and left after taking some things. The boy followed me, with something in his hand too. In the end, we still showed up at the same recycling station. The boss greeted us with a smile. Obviously, we were all regular customers. I later learned that the boy's name is Wei Cheng, and he is also a special admission student like me. Wei Cheng's eyes were a bit complicated. I understood his complexity. After all, we were competitors before, and now we are in the same boat. His eyes fell on the patch of my clothes. Wei Cheng asked, "What's up with you and me? Do you need patches?" I bought 10 pieces. "I can sell you 2 for 1 yuan each," he said apologetically. "I didn't know your situation was so difficult." I sniffed and said deeply, "It's okay." Wei Cheng was silent for a moment, and then actively gave me the bag in his hand.
"It's on me," he said.
I was moved and said, "You're so nice. I'm poor, but I really study well, and I'm not afraid of exams." I, who always ranked first in the citywide unified exams, and Wei Cheng, whose name was also in the top 10, our school names behind us were particularly eye-catching, giving a sense of looking down on others like a small person who has achieved success. The principal was very happy and called Wei Cheng and me over and praised us. His old face was bright, and he walked with his head held high when going to meetings in the city. Wei Cheng and I were each given a big red envelope. The principal said, "Chin, keep it up." I was moved. With money, isn't it as easy as turning one's hand? Somehow, as easy as turning one's hand spread. There was a forum in the elite school. Some people hyped me up, saying that a poor student like me could achieve things as easily as turning one's hand, and that my life was as easy as that. I was brokenhearted. My life was a complete failure. I chose to report this to the principal. The principal was busy comforting me, and Wei Cheng, who came in to deliver something at the side, seemed unable to bear to look. The principal was a very prestigious and powerful principal. When he was young, he was a dominant figure. When he got older, he had an idea and wanted to make some achievements in the school's career. He immediately found the person who led the mockery of me and scolded him severely, asking him to apologize to me. The person apologized reluctantly. Of course, I knew his dissatisfaction. After leaving the principal's office, that person turned around and wanted to mock me, saying that I only knew how to report to the principal. But when Okanda, he smiled mysteriously. "Is your grade at the bottom of the class?" His face suddenly turned as red as a pig's liver. "How do you know?" "No, it's none of your business." I pretended to be profound and said, "Do you want to?" He was alert and asked, "Want what?" "I warn you, don't think that just because you have good grades and the principal protects you, you're great. My family is from the XXXX group. I can be thicker than your waist with just my little finger." Hearing him mention his family, I silently looked up and wept in my heart. It's so nice to be rich. I hated it. I adjusted my mindset of wanting to strangle him. The devil whispered, "Do you want to work hard secretly and then return gloriously to amaze everyone?" The boy was stunned for a moment. I continued, "Do you want to get the teacher's admiration, the principal's praise, and see your parents' gratified tears?" The boy's steps gradually hesitated. I gave a fatal blow. "Do you want to stand out in the circle and look down on others?" The young masters and misses are still in school. There is always comparison in the circle, both openly and secretly. Although grades are not very important for their future, if a person is always at the bottom in the circle, he will definitely be the first to be discriminated against. The boy gritted his teeth and asked, "What on earth do you want to say?" It could be seen that his determination was shaken. I was satisfied and patted him on the shoulder and said, "Teacher Chen's class is starting. It's not 998, not 888. You can experience a comprehensive study tutoring from the number one in the city for 98 yuan." The boy Zhou Sui never thought that he would secretly be with a special admission student hiding in an unoccupied lounge. He gritted his teeth and lowered his voice and said, "Chin Su, I tell you, don't play tricks on me. I have plenty of means and strength." Then he took out a 100 yuan bill. I grabbed it as fast as lightning and looked around cautiously and said, "Let's start." Zhou Sui asked suspiciously, "Do you have to be like this? It's like you're doing something shameful." Zhou Sui's foundation was surprisingly poor. To sum it up simply, I had never seen anyone with such poor talent as abstract as is in my life. Fortunately, he was obedient and his mind was willing to work, so there was still hope. After one class, Zhou Sui seemed to have his soul purified. He stared blankly at the questions he understood and got all correct and squeezed the pen holder. This was what he made, and he saw me as if I was shining, the light of knowledge. Now he understood the value of this class. Zhou Sui took a deep breath and said, "To be honest, my family originally hired a one-on-one professional tutor for me, but I don't know why, I just couldn't listen or learn, no matter how the tutor guided me." I sincerely said, "The reason is too simple. You and the tutor are not on the same level of intelligence. You have been in contact with people on the same level as you, and you have never seen such an abstract person like you. But I'm different. As long as you pay me, I can adjust my thinking to your level." We agreed to have tutoring every week. Zhou Sui generously said that he was willing to pay twice the market price per hour. I agreed and signed a 1-month contract with him, symbolically. Zhou Sui was unhappy and asked, "Why can I only have tutoring 3 times a week? I can hire you every day, and it's not difficult to raise your salary if the result is effective." I refused. "I only have tutoring 3 times a week. I'm not the kind of person who puts all eggs in one basket." Then I added Zhou Sui's arch-rival, Sheng Yan, who was second from the bottom in the grade, for tutoring. I sincerely told him about his current situation and said that if he didn't make some changes, he would soon replace Zhou Sui as the bottom one. Zhang Yan sneered at him and said, "No matter how capable Zhou Sui is, he is doomed to be the bottom one." This sentence stopped when I sent Zhou Sui's test scores of the Sui and Tang dynasties. I said, "Oops," and sent the wrong screen. The person on the other side didn't speak. He struggled for a while and sent a message, "Let's meet and talk." Soon, it was arranged that Zhou Sui would have tutoring on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Sheng Yan would have tutoring on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The great cause was carried out vigorously. 2 people rose quietly in elite school. In Zhou Sui's words, he no longer wanted to be discriminated against. In Sheng Yan's words, he couldn't accept Zhou Sui surpassing him at all. It's not easy to earn 2 salaries. I would often inadvertently reveal some of Zhou Sui's recent situations to Sheng Yan and accidentally leave a passing grade test of Zhou Sui. Sheng Yan was surprised and asked, "Where did this Sheng Yan come from?" His pupils dilated as he stared at the paper. "Can I add an extra hour today? I'll pay 3 times." I agreed and praised him for being very motivated. Sheng Yan was very pleased and studied harder. When facing Zhou Sui, I could more easily arouse his competitive spirit. After all, he had no way to retreat. The bottom one couldn't become the second from the bottom. As time passed, I was very tired every day. I took back my words that it was easy to earn money. Money is hard to earn, and shit is hard to eat. Tutoring is not difficult, but it depends on who you are tutoring. Occasionally, I was so frustrated that I said, "Is there a brain between your 2 ears?" There is a taboo of the Hui ethnic group between 2 ears. I understand the pain of working like a horse. I think I should even ask for compensation for mental damage from them. One day, I rubbed my dark circles under my eyes and left the lounge sleepily. Suddenly, there was a person in front of me. Wei Chung was wearing an armband, holding a blue folder in one hand and a black pen in the other, and his eyes were inquiringly looking at me. I immediately became alert. I was always alert of Wei Chung. He always had a faint presence. When we showed up at the same garbage station, we were doomed not to get along well. I unilaterally announced that when I thought he would say something like, "This is my garbage station, please don't touch it, or I will deduct all your points," Wei Chung lowered his head and wrote quickly, "2 points will be deducted for not wearing a school badge." I'm not joking. Wei Chung stared at me, with dark circles under his eyes, and was silent for a moment. After considering his words carefully, he said, "Pay attention to your behavior." To be honest, I knew it was my fault for not wearing a school badge, but was there a possibility that I didn't have the school uniform at all? I heard that it was specially invited a big brand to customize it, and other people's brands were not high-end enough. It was so terrible that I just wore my own clothes. This school was so poor that I went to ask my father to invest in another building. They just said some words that made me want to die. Wei Chung was silent for a moment and then asked, "Don't you know?" I asked blankly, "What should I know?" Wei Chung thought for a while and then handed me a mobile phone. He pointed to the content on it. I looked at it and saw a huge title. "The innocent Cinderella is not what she seems. She has secret meetings and she is on 135, while I am on 246. I scratched my head. It looked like a title that an unethical media would come up with. What was the latest news in society? However, when I scrolled down and saw the first photo, it was a close-up of my face with dark circles under my eyes and a drooping face. I was innocent and cute, but now I looked like a female ghost from a midnight horror movie. I was furious and asked, Who took such an ugly photo, Wei Cheng? Unexpectedly, my focus was on this, and my expression was a bit changeable. The lounge door opened, and a listless Zhou Sui walked out. Wei Cheng's silent eyes fell on Zhou Sui for a moment, and then moved back to me without a trace. Zhou Sui saw Wei Cheng and suddenly remembered that I had told him that the tutoring matter should not be known to anyone. I said that if it was known, people would know that he was secretly learning, and they would surely laugh at him. Do you still want your face? Zhou Sui was shocked and said, this matter will never be known to a third person. His eyes were floating, and he said, it's okay. I'm leaving. Wei Cheng was a discipline inspector, very keen. He faintly saw something hidden in his arms.
Wait, don't move.
Zhou Sui was a young master with a bad temper and a bit of guilt. His temper flared up and he couldn't help but lose his temper and said, don't think that just because you are a discipline inspector, you can order me around. When the young master lost his temper, he forgot what was in his arms. Something fell down with a click.
Zhou Sui froze.
Wei Cheng picked up an exercise book without changing his expression. He flipped through 2 pages and saw various annotations and problem-solving processes, as well as my big comment. Practice more if you're not good at it. If you can't pass the exam, go to work in a factory and be honest after working for 2 days. I, Zhou Sui, and Wei Cheng sat in the lounge together. I cleared my throat and simply told the truth. We skipped evening self-study in school and started an unlicensed private tutoring and charged fees, but we didn't know how much. I wasn't sure if Wei Cheng would use this to attack me precisely. Wei Cheng seemed like a person not to be trifled with, more like a person with a bomb tied to him, someone who would rather die together. Zhou Sui didn't say a word. He wasn't afraid of the school. He just felt a bit ashamed. As the unchanging bottom one, he once stuck his neck out and argued with the teacher. Zhou Sui would rather jump from here and die than learn. The whole school knew the legend of this bottom one. Now that his secret learning was discovered, his face was slapped again and again. Zhou Sui was heartbroken. I stuck my neck out and was ready to be fired gloriously. Wei Cheng's eyes slowly fell on me and he thought for a moment and said, it's a good idea. I quickly raised my head and it seemed that there was room for a turnaround. Wei Cheng tapped the table lightly and smiled and said, if you want this matter not to be spread, there is a condition. I held my breath and said, please tell me. Wei Cheng said matter-of-factly, I want to join. I had said before that Wei Cheng and I were doomed not to get along well. Forget about the garbage station. Even tutoring, he wanted to share a piece of the pie. My heart was so painful that I could hardly breathe. Zhou Sui adapted very quickly. He looked at me and Wei Cheng and suddenly felt a secret happiness in his heart. 2 people were arguing for him. It seemed that Zhou Sui was also an uncommon person. I pulled Wei Cheng aside alone and said, how rare is this uncommon fool? Are you sincerely competing with me for business? Wei Cheng said calmly, no, I just want to join you. I tried to persuade him. Look, if I do the tutoring, the garbage station will be yours alone. We can monopolize tutoring and the garbage station respectively. Isn't it good? Wei Cheng was silent for a moment and said, no, I hate you. Wei Cheng said okay. This life is unbearable. Finally, I was forced to reach an agreement with Wei Cheng. Zhou Sui sat up straight and said that he would work hard and not let people down, although I don't know where the expectation came from. At least the young master could speak human language now.
It was gratifying.
Zhou Sui scratched his head and looked at Wei Cheng and asked, by the way, discipline inspector classmate, what's your name? Wei Cheng paused and said, Wei Cheng. I laughed heartily.
He also had today.
Wei Cheng glanced at me lightly. Under my halo, although Wei Cheng was also a special admission student and in the top 10, he was not as noticeable as before. What if he had a face like a campus hero? I was the first. I and Wei Cheng took over different subjects respectively, worked together, and provided targeted tutoring. Zhou Sui felt that he could do it again. The young master had a good character, but he was a bit lazy, stupid, and greedy in study. He studied hard for 3 hours with tears wetting his hamburger and swore to complete this glorious reversal. Although Wei Cheng and I had some unpleasant experiences, we worked together very harmoniously. With him, the teaching tasks and progress were all in order and very efficient. The special admissions team made a great contribution. I looked at Wei Cheng and suddenly felt that we both had a bright future. But I was so busy that I forgot one thing. The next day was Saturday. Wei Cheng tutored Zhou Sui according to the time of the previous day. Where was Chen Su? Zhou Sui scratched his head and said, Chen Su only comes 3 days a week. She said she has limited energy. Wei Cheng was thoughtful. Suddenly, there was a pop sound and the lounge door was opened. They looked up and saw Sheng Yan standing at the door against a light, holding a pile of tutoring materials. When I received Wei Cheng's call, I was still sleepy. What's wrong? What's the matter? There was a silence on the other end for a moment, and then Wei Cheng's voice came. Did you forget something? I subconsciously refuted. Nonsense. What could I forget? As soon as I finished speaking, there was a noise on the other end. I vaguely heard 2 familiar voices arguing. You naughty Zhou Sui. I wonder how you could do all these questions. You were secretly learning behind my back, right? How dare you say that to me? What's in your hand? Do you dare to look into my eyes and say it? I jumped up like a carp and became sober. I took out my phone and saw the message sent by Sheng Yan. I was annoyed and patted my head. Damn it, I forgot to tell him to change the place. When I arrived, Wei Cheng was leaning against the door, looking very peaceful. He saw me and nodded, greeting me. You're here. I smiled sheepishly. Before, I was curious about what 135 and 246 meant in the post. Wei Cheng lowered his eyes and said, I know you're not that kind of person, but now it turns out like this. Chen Su, your time management is really good, but your clients don't seem to be satisfied. Wei Cheng raised his chin and motioned me to look inside. There was a fierce argument inside. The two were talking back and forth, and it was almost a fight. My right eyelid twitched. They didn't suspect before and didn't know each other's existence. But now that they knew, they were very excited and I couldn't stop them. Speaking of the post, I still don't know who took the ugly photo of me and gave it such an unethical title. Wei Cheng took a look and said, I have banned the person who posted it and silenced him for 365 years. I was shocked and asked, how many? 365 years? He can speak again in the next life. His voice was clear, and it was not good for the image. I was a discipline inspector and had the right to deal with such things. I sincerely gave him a thumbs up and said, you're great. Zhou Sui and Sheng Yan finally reached an agreement and were ready to condemn me together. In principle, I didn't do anything bad, but in a way, I was also a bit irresponsible. I sat down and talked with them face to face. Zhou Sui's face was black and Sheng Yan's face was green. Wei Cheng stood far away, with a faint smile on his face. There was no one behind me, and I took a deep breath. If I didn't deal with this well today, I would be chased tomorrow. At this moment, my mind worked fast and I slapped the table before them and said, listen to me. I took a deep breath and said, actually, there is one thing I haven't told you all. In an instant, 3 pairs of eyes stared at me. I said emotionally, I have a dream to save all the bottom students in the world. 2 of them looked confused. I forced myself to choke and said, to be honest, I was also a bottom student before. I know the hardships of being a bottom student only by myself. So I understand the bitterness of being a bottom student better than anyone else. I described in detail my journey as a bottom student. Zhou Sui and Sheng Yan's eyes shook slightly. Maybe they didn't expect that as a popular student of the principal, I had an unknown bitter journey. This time it was Wei Cheng's turn to look at me with a bit of doubt. He didn't say anything and just watched me quietly and said, I know I have a big mistake in this matter. Although I'm poor, I have no parents, I'm a special admission student, and I'm almost unable to survive and can only pick up garbage, but it's all my fault. But I really have a dream to save the bottom students. I wiped the corner of my eye where there was no tear. When did Zhou Sui and Sheng Yan encounter such a thing? I cried so seriously, so desolately, and so horribly that they immediately felt that it was inappropriate to put their hands here. Zhou Sui coughed lightly and said, it's good that you have this intention. I don't blame you. Sheng Yan stepped on Zhou Sui's foot and sneered. It's clearly you who are petty. If you're not petty, what did you say? You know it in your heart. If you didn't say it now. I said, what did I say? I don't know what they said exactly, but it doesn't matter. I turned my head gracefully and said, it's good that you don't blame me. The air froze for a second. Sheng Yan asked, where are your tears just now? A long time later, Wei Cheng really asked me about being a bottom student. I said, I'm not afraid. From childhood to adulthood, there is no question I can't answer, no test paper I can't understand, no teacher I can't handle, and no competition I can't win. Wei Cheng said, the content of your bottom student test paper has no value to write. The teacher told me not to waste time on it, so I handed in a blank paper and went to the competition. Wei Cheng asked himself and said that what he said was true. The tutoring team got together again. The busy Chen Su teacher continued her work. I grasped both study and tutoring. I could digest the new knowledge learned on the same day, draw inferences from one instance, and forcefully instill knowledge into Zhou Sui. Only the strong deserve to listen to what I say. Zhou Sui said, speak slower, strong person. They are not like you, and can be talked to death easily. I looked carefully, and saw that the young masters looked pale, with dull eyes and no spirit, and dark circles under their eyes, looking almost dead. They really learned something. I thought in my heart, see, this is the essence of learning. Only those who have really learned understand it. Wei Cheng was silent for a short time and gave me a thumbs up. One day, I left school after having an extra meal and was blocked in an alley on my way home while humming a song. The leading girl was very angry and looked at me coldly. I recognized her. She was the young lady Yunruo from whom I asked for a drink bottle before. I was happy and waved my hand. Yunruo was shocked. She didn't expect me to be so familiar. She immediately pursed her lips into a line, and the atmosphere was strange. I realized it even if I was slow. Oh, she came with bad intentions, not just to say hello and ask if I had eaten. My mind worked fast. No, I didn't participate in the Campus Mary Sue plot at all. At most, I participated in the garbage collection war. I should have no conflict of interest with her. The next second, Yunruo tilted her head and looked at me and said, I really didn't expect you to be this kind of person. I scratched my head and asked, what kind of person? Is it illegal to pick up bottles in this school? Yunruo said with grief. She thought I, as the only pure white jasmine in this school, could hold my ground. But I still couldn't resist the temptation. Then she told me what was said in the post that made fun of me that day. It was said that I was not enterprising and was keen on pairing up with school bullies with poor grades and who liked to fight. The story of a poor student and a school bully is out of date. Aren't Sheng Yan and Zhou Sui bad people? I nodded quickly. I understand that being the bottom one or second from the bottom with terrible grades is the same. She thought I would argue with her a few words like the stubborn lines of a Mary Sue TV drama heroine such as you don't understand our love or love is invincible. I don't believe what you say. Actually, nothing happened. I nodded too quickly and Yunruo got stuck for a moment. She thought for a moment and said earnestly, forget about them and Wei Cheng. Although Wei Cheng is good-looking, loves life, is diligent, and has a strong ambition, you shouldn't be confused by him. You said all Yoden. Yunruo got angry and said, it's not important. The important thing is that their new posts have come out and have been upgraded again. Some people were shocked to find that there was an additional Wei Cheng later. They thought the discipline inspector went to rectify the discipline, but they didn't expect that he was deeply involved.
It was so terrifying.
The discipline inspector? Oh my god, he is really not a good person. Yunruo trembled with anger. You guys should really be careful. Don't be photographed. Do you know how much energy and money I spent on dealing with those posts in private? Wei Chung dealt with Yun Ruo on the surface and dealt with the teachers who spread the rumors privately. Since the impact was not big, he didn't pay attention to me. I was surprised. So he was on my side. Yun Ruo scolded me. She looked really worried. Standing in such a shabby place and having 3 relationships, do you feel a sense of achievement? But do you know that for an ordinary person, this is a life-destroying thing? They have a way out, but you don't. When she spoke sweetly, her hair swayed with her body movements. Standing in 3 relationships, I thought for a moment and looked at the young lady who was angry but had no improvement in her grades. I extended an invitation. Do you want to come and be the 4th relationship, Yun Ruo? In the lounge, we 5 sat together. Wei Ching read quietly. Zhou Sui and Sheng Yan looked at each other. Yun Ruo was silent. After a long silence, she slowly opened her mouth, still in shock. She said, "You mean you 4 are here, 2 teaching and 2 learning, with piles of materials, secret test papers and exercise questions on the table, which undoubtedly proves the truth of this statement." Zhou Sui scratched his head and said, "Then what else? Play mahjong?" Yun Ruo was silent again. After a long silence, she closed her eyes. She regretted her decision to find me. Yun Ruo smiled sheepishly and said, "My father called me to pick up my grandma from school." She tried to leave but failed because I blocked the door. The young lady looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, looking as if she was about to break. "I hate learning." "I don't. You like it." "I hate learning." "Do you like it?" I cut through the Gordian knot and said with bright eyes, "You like it. Everyone who steps in here will never have a way back." When someone finally found with horror that Yun Ruo had also stepped into that door, her dark circles under her eyes were the same as ours. Yun Ruo was supposed to rectify the atmosphere. Why did she also fall into this fate? Men and women are both involved. It's so terrifying. And I looked at the dark circles under everyone's eyes and was very satisfied. I was very happy. This is the power of knowledge. This is the faith of learning. This is the mark of us learners. What a mark of a learner. Everyone was moved to tears and agreed with my statement and asked if they could go to sleep now. I scratched my head. I forgot. You also need to sleep. They thought they could accept this small intensity. For my way of thinking, Zhou Sui and Sheng Yan couldn't accept it. They thought my brain structure was different from normal people's, and I had a bit of an antisocial personality. Zhou Sui secretly found Wei Chung and said, "You have something in common with her. Can you persuade Chin Su? She is going to be obsessed." Wei Chung thought for a moment and said, "Probably not."
Why?
"Have you read novels?" Zhou Sui became interested and said, "You read novels too? What type do you read?" Wei Chung said, "Well, I've read cultivation novels. You should know what the protagonists and their supporting characters are usually like." Zhou Sui slowly bent down and said, "No, the protagonist is gifted, with a strange skeleton. And the supporting characters, who are noble in birth, proud and arrogant, are just a small episode under the protagonist's sword no matter how hard they try." Zhou Sui called me in horror and said, "Am I your stepping stone? Am I crazy about learning?" All the rumors disappeared. In the next citywide unified exam, before the exam, I gave each person a piece of cloud cake, symbolizing progress. The young lady scorned superstition, but still honestly took a piece. Zhou Sui and Sheng Yan followed suit, and each ate a piece devoutly. After eating, Zhou Sui was very shy. If I got the first place, the young master had already fantasized. As the eldest son, he never dared to sit down and have a drink with his father because he was afraid of seeing his father's deep eyes. His father's eyes were the thing a man was most afraid to see in his life, and his father's praise was the thing a man was most eager to get in his life. I saw what he was thinking and coldly interrupted. "You now need to uninstall the Tomato Novel app on your phone." Sheng Yan laughed arrogantly and said, "You first place? Ha 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 ha, you're dreaming." I nodded and thought Sheng Yan was more practical. The next second, Sheng Yan puffed up his chest and said, "I'm the material for the first place." I was expressionless and thought it was about the same. He needed to uninstall the Chima Novel app. Okay. I made a stop gesture and looked at Wei Chung, who was so calm. Wei Chung turned his head and looked at me as if analyzing something seriously, and then said with a normal face, "I think we are the champions. This is not a dream. It seems like we ate too much from a food delivery app and got poisoned." When the results came out, there was an uproar. Zhou Sui held his transcript and cried bitterly. Of course, he didn't get the first place. I firmly occupied the first place, and my heart was as calm as water. Looking at the grades of several people, they were okay and had made progress as expected. Zhou Sui trembled as he dialed his father's number. "Dad." Zhou's father thought he had caused trouble and frowned and said, "Did you fight with someone again?" "Dad, I succeeded." Zhou Sui ran here and there with his transcript, as if possessed. Zhou's father was very worried and thought his son was insane, and quickly called his assistant to go with him to see. When he saw Zhou Sui's transcript, Zhou's father rubbed his eyes and said, "You copied?" Zhou Sui was shocked and pointed incredulously at his eyes, and 2 lines of clear tears flowed down. Zhou's father thought he had been up all night playing games. I told Zhou's father about the situation, and he was very surprised and also very pleased. This naughty boy has grown up and knows something. The assistant, Xiaolin, said briskly, "Okay, send 2 million to his card." Zhou's father was in a good mood and looked at me and said, This girl, look like you will become a great talent. In the future, Zhou Sui will need more of your help. Xiaolin, send 100000 to the girl's card." I quickly grabbed Zhou Sui and said firmly, "Don't worry, the direction you point is the direction I aim at." Zhou Sui, who was about to skip class and go to an internet cafe because of his good grades, at the same time, the school forum exploded. It was terrifying whether you thought carefully or not. As long as you stepped into that door, your grades doubled. I hated it so much. You don't know that my mother has compared me with Zhou Sui. Yes, Zhou Sui has even become someone else's child. Is it because there is knowledge temptation behind that door instead of multiple relationships? I wanted to slap myself twice. I learned to gossip at the age when I should be studying. Why didn't I think of this cool way? Now, I'm a hot topic on the forum. I stayed quiet and then surprised everyone. It's a great way to show off. A glorious transformation shocked everyone. A school finally realized something. Wei Cheng was arranging materials beside me. I was humming a song and planning to help several people consolidate their knowledge. Although they will all go abroad in the future, I was very impressed that the gap between people is determined from the moment of birth. Wei Cheng suddenly said, "Chen Su, are you not angry?" Wei Cheng was referring to the posts that were widely spread at that time. I laughed and said, "What's there to be angry about? There are not many opportunities to eat my own melon. It's like giving me an advertisement and traffic." High energy people never waste their energy on internal conflicts. They always put their own feelings first. Wei Cheng, you and I are really different. I stopped being emotional to avoid disaster. Otherwise, you will be doomed. When leaving the classroom, I thought for a moment and then turned around and asked, "By the way, Wei Cheng, which school do you want to apply to?" Wei Cheng was slightly stunned, and his eyes seemed to light up. The next second, I smiled and said, "I'm avoiding a risk. There can't be two protagonists in a school." After the elite school life ended, Zhou Sui, Sheng Yan, and Yun Ruo went abroad to study as scheduled. Before leaving, the young masters and misses came to shake my hand. Zhou Sui choked and said, "Chen Su, be well. Without us, we'll give you money in the future." I said, "Send me 2000000." Zhou Sui, "Oh, the plane is about to leave. I have to go." Sheng Yan had tears in his eyes and said, "Chen Su, I will remember you for a lifetime. It seems I was exploited too much. A gentleman takes revenge in 10 years is not too late." Yun Ruo took a deep breath, and for the first time in her life, as a young lady, she lost all her strength and means against a person. Her lips opened and closed, and finally she said, "You fucking have something." Wei Cheng stood beside me, not knowing what he was thinking. After seeing off these troublemakers, I was in a very good mood. But Wei Cheng suddenly said, "Chen Su, I'm going to Switzerland." I was stunned and said, "What?" Wei Cheng touched my head. He was good-looking and tall, and there was no sense of incongruity when he said this. I vaguely felt that something unacceptable was about to happen. I then realized that Wei Cheng's family name was not an ordinary one. He was from a wealthy merchant family. I was so exaggerated. I thought we were in the same boat, but it turned out I was really pitiful. Do I like to play poor cosplay so much? Wei Cheng was indeed a special admission student, but he was a special admission student who came to experience life. It was like a friend who ate buns together after waking up, but he was actually on a secret inspection tour. Then, as an ordinary person like me, I should say, "Wow, so you are such a person." I really had no idea. My mood was very complex. I patted his shoulder and said, "You really deserve to die." Only I was hurt in this world. God, I want to call the police to arrest him. Just for fun, but I still entered my ideal university as I wished. The journey was unbelievably smooth, as if the life of being hungry, cold, and picking up garbage before was just a dream. I became hesitant and vigilant again. Something was very wrong, 200% wrong. To prevent being hit hard by life when I was relaxed, I was full of energy and worked hard as a student and then as an employee after graduation. Even after rising to a high position, I still felt insecure. When I was at a loss, a lot of messages came to my phone. Zhou Sui sent a message from England, with the smell of hometown in the wind. I sang a love song, and then Sheng Yan sent a message from America, saying he missed me.
I was so touched.
After a gunfight ended, Yun Ruo sent a message from Germany, saying it was very cold there, as cold as her heart. I thought she should study hard, or she couldn't come back. Then another ding-dong sound. Wei Cheng sent a message from Switzerland, saying it was snowing there. I took a bite of a chicken leg and typed quickly, "Brother Xiaoxue, what do you think of me going into business?" Going into business and keeping myself in a state of crisis was also my way to deal with my sixth sense. Then there was a ding-dong sound again, and suddenly there was an extra 10 million in my card. Wei Cheng sent the money for my business investment and said I could ask for more if it was not enough. I was shocked and sent a voice message, "Old friend, I will sell you health products when you are old." But the business was successful, which made me very troubled. Moreover, the company's market value was getting better and better. I sent messages to everyone with emotion. I didn't understand Zhou Sui. Maybe some people are born to be protagonists. Sheng Yan said, like me. Yun Ruo said, enough. The young masters and misses were striving for their family businesses. The effort I put into tutoring them before could be used now. When I sat across from Wei Cheng at the negotiation table, I really realized what it was to face a protagonist directly. I smiled and shook his hand and said, "There is nothing to say. Buy health products for me first." Wei Cheng also smiled and said, "Okay, President Chen, let's go for dinner. Everything is ready." We walked side by side, leaving our subordinates who were staring at each other because of the tense situation. They asked, "Should we go?" It seemed not necessary. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, I said, "I owe him a favor." Wei Cheng thought for a moment and said, "A favor?
Keep it for now.
I will think about how to ask you to repay it when I remember next time." I asked, "Which one?" Wei Cheng said, "Maybe after having more meals together, I will figure out how to make you repay it." So every day, the people from our two companies watched as the two bosses who were arguing strongly one second could go for dinner the next second. Wei Cheng looked at his watch and said, "It's time for dinner. Let's go." I said, "Go, go, go." Then we walked side by side again, leaving a handsome and unrestrained figure. Our subordinates were used to it. Huh. Wei Cheng's little thoughts could not be hidden. So everyone greeted and stopped, sitting down happily for dinner, as if it was a company team building activity. Do you think Wei Cheng can pursue President Chen? Of course. Hi. Look at how President Chen and Wei Cheng are like good brothers, hugging each other's shoulders. It's not likely. I will protect my CP bravely. Dare you bet? The bet is on.
The end.
枷锁慢慢坠入了悲催的爱和漩涡。